Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Taurox the Brass Bull. So Taurox starts his campaign in between Storeg Court, which is a ruin, and Clarkerond, which is owned by Dark Elves. The obvious thing to do here is to smash the Dark Elves and set up your first Herdstone over here. Cause as much carnage in this blood ground in this general area here, and then just move on. In terms of which direction you want to move on, that's entirely up to you. You want to go north, you can do that. South, east, west, doesn't matter. That's the great thing about the Beastmen. The game doesn't hold your hand whatsoever, so you can just do whatever you want. Now, this is a campaign that definitely favors aggressive players as opposed to defensive. So if you're the kind of player that likes to sit around and build settlements up, this isn't for you, because the Beastmen don't grow their settlements at all. They need to just cause carnage. That's how they grow. So yeah, you need to be an aggressive player if you really want to get the most out of this. Now, talking about Taurox's campaign mechanics specifically, they are extremely powerful. Now, they were more powerful in Warhammer 2, but you could even go so far as to say they were kind of overpowered in Warhammer 2. But his campaign is all about having a turn that never ends and a rampage that just goes on forever. So it's all about these momentum tokens. So you get those momentum tokens by winning battles. A victory will give you 1, ending the turn will lose it, and losing battles will lose your momentum. Now, you spend these momentum tokens on resetting his movement, but you can only have so many momentum tokens stored up, and every time he wins a rampage it kind of gets reset down a little bit. So as you win battles, your rampage will continue, and you can start resetting your movement when you're in this area here. So when you're in this bar here, you can't reset his movement. So it's optimal to try to keep him in this area, because once he reaches the end here, it resets all the way down here. Every time you reach these milestones, you get to choose a specific reward, some of them being pretty damn good, like this one here, momentum cost to replenish campaign movement range, -1. See, the base cost on this is 3, and it's reduced down to 2 once you've got it. Whereas in Warhammer 2, you could get the cost down to 1. So that meant that you only had to fight and win 1 battle in Warhammer 2 in order to reset his movement, but in Warhammer 3 you have to win 2 battles every time you can reset his movement, essentially. So having a turn that never ends is not really possible in Warhammer 3, because for one thing, the AI just doesn't pump out as many armies as it did in Warhammer 2. But overall, extremely powerful mechanics. Now, talking about the Beastmen mechanics, so outside of Taurox's main mechanic a little bit, the Beastmen are also really powerful. So the Beastmen, prior to their rework, like 18 months ago, they were absolute garbage. They were probably the worst race in the history of Total War Warhammer, but now they're arguably one of the best, one of the most powerful. Of course, you do need to know how they work in order to really make full use of them, but their campaign mechanics are centered around causing as much ruin as possible, setting up herdstones to prevent other factions from resettling these settlements, so they got their ruined dwelling sort of fixed, and then obtaining as much dread as possible. Dread is obtained basically by killing as many enemies as possible and winning the battle. And dread is spent in this section here on increasing your unit caps, because Beastmen don't pay any upkeep or recruitment costs for their units, but there's a limit to how many units you can recruit. So the more dread you get, the more you can increase your units. Same thing with lords. So the legendary lords can be instantly confederated if you get enough dread, and you can increase your hero capacity using dread. Very good system. And then you've got these permanent upgrades over here. Now, all of these ones here are a one-time spend only, and all of them are quite good, except for this one here, which is insanely good. This is a repeatable upgrade. Every time you spend 1,500, you can get an extra army capacity. So up to 30, you can have just hordes and hordes of Beastmen armies really quite early on. But the problem with that system is because your unit caps only allow for a certain number of units, and these ones here are the ones that don't require unit caps. If you get too many armies too soon, you'll have no choice but to fill them with Ungor Raiders and Ungor Spearmen Herd, just garbage, which a lot of people might find not interesting. So it's entirely up to you how you want to go about it, because these upgrades here, these increase in the unit capacities, these get very expensive. So I think a little bit of a rebalancing is kind of needed in this system, because I think this stuff here is way too expensive, and this one here is way too cheap. So decreasing at least the cost increase when you increase your unit caps would help disincentivize people from spamming armies full of Ungor Raiders, because at the moment that's kind of more optimal than doing it the other way around. But overall, it's still a very good system, way better than what they used to have. And overall, I really enjoy playing as the Beastmen. But yeah, I think they could use a bit of a tweak. So overall, I highly recommend Taurox's campaign, and I think the sweet spot for difficulty is legendary difficulty, because it's not a difficult campaign on any difficulty, and the reason why legendary difficulty is optimal, I'm not talking about battle difficulty, plan whatever difficulty you want for that, but legendary difficulty specifically is because you want the enemy to produce as many armies as possible. If they produce more armies, you'll get more dread, which means you can get more unit capacity. So somebody playing on normal difficulty will take longer to get their, all their good units together than somebody playing on legendary. So your campaign will progress faster playing on higher difficulties. It's a weird thing with some of these factions, how they benefit greatly the more difficult their campaign, quote-unquote, is. So that's what I recommend, but at the end of the day, play whatever you're comfortable with. Taurox is able to handle any situation whatsoever. In fact, this is a campaign that if you really wanted to, you could do an ultimate crisis, early endgame crisis campaign, setting it to turn 10 with 200 strength, and still manage to survive because he's just such a powerful faction. Overall, great fun playing as Taurox, highly recommend it. Anyway, that's the end of this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Taurox the Brass Bull. Let me know what legendary lord you'd like me to cover next. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.